still, I mean, I guess this really started back in Dolly. In fact, we're going to talk about Dolly a little bit here in a second. But with the old guy in the windmill.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? I don't know if we talked about that scene too much. The guy who likes to drink coffee.
I don't think so.
So he's like, I love coffee. Like, I love the smell of coffee or whatever. And he offers some. And there's a scene there where basically he asks Steiner, because Steiner says something like, I just want to do what's right. I'm just trying to do what's right.
Right.
And he says,
and what's right?
What's right or wrong?
Yeah.
Who decides what's right or wrong? You? And he's like, no, anyone can tell what's right or wrong. And the guy says, just green as a pickle, which is another play on the whole Giselle pickle.
Yeah.
So that scene had happened earlier. I think that was like the real initial kind of like beginnings of the gears turning in Steiner's head.
Right.
Because it's like this whole black mage thing happens. Well, that's not okay. Like, I don't like what's going on here, but there must be a good reason.
Yeah.
So he's still kind of, justifying that in his head. And then they reach the summit station. And Dagger is a little bit, she's getting really annoyed with him at this point.
That's right.
There's a couple of points here where she's really sharp to the point that it kind of hurts him a little bit. You can see it's like he feels terrible. She makes him feel really bad because he continues to just be horrible. Because what are their names? Marcus.
Yeah, Marcus
and Cinna.
Yeah, Cinna's
end
there.
up arriving there to eat the Southgate bunt cake.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I love that one. And Baku's there too, but you see him a little bit later.
Yeah, he's not there yet. He's in Trino actually. He meets with Marcus and Trino, then he goes up and meets Cinna at the summit station because he still hasn't left yet. It's a really funny little ATE.
That's funny.
But anyway, so Garnet runs up to him. Hey, like what happened? And Steiner's just so suspicious. You need not speak with criminals or whatever.
Yeah. Don't be around these people.
And I can't remember exactly what she says, but she rebukes him a couple of times really hard to where he just hangs his head,
Like in that station in the dining area.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I remember that.
I'm trying to remember where she said here. I think I've got it here. Oh, scoundrels. Are you here to kidnap the princess again?
Oh, that's right. He'll never let that go.
Who's the big tin man? What? How dare you? He's the captain of the Pluto Knights. Oh, yeah. You're one bad actor, says Cinna.
That's right, because he was on the play.
Have you no respect?
Yeah.
And so if you approach them as Dagger and start talking to them, he says, Princess, you should not waste your breath on criminals. And she, where does she say it? She gets really mad at him here. She calls him by his full name. That was the funny part. Adalbert Steiner, like a mom does to a kid or whatever. Yeah. You shouldn't waste your breath on criminals. And then he's like, Princess, because she keeps approaching or whatever. Steiner, that's enough. He's like, what? Can't I even talk to my friends? Friends? But they're Adalbert Steiner. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. And he just got scolded. How embarrassing. So anyway, it's just a kind of some funny scenes here, but Marcus is on his way into Alexandria because he's going to go look for what this rumored super soft potion.
Super soft.
Which
so that he can save Blank?
Blank, who was petrified in the evil forest. So there's a super version of what is from the beginning of the series, the soft potion, which is used to cure the petrify status ailment. So there's a super soft potion out there to cure this very specific, really powerful version of a petrify spell or something.
Yeah, in Japanese, the name of it is the needle, the golden needle, which in previous Final Fantasy games, the golden needle is what cures petrification. And then this one is called the platinum needle because it's the super soft. So this is the platinum needle, right? It's better than the normal stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the only place to find it apparently is in Trino.
Yeah.
So then Garnet decides, well, we're going to help you.
She feels somewhat responsible for what happened to Blank.
She has a moment in Trino a little bit later on where she kind of is questioning herself, where they're on the boat with Steiner.
Yes.
And she's like, why am I doing this? Why am I? They're not even really my friends. They're Zidane's friends, but like, for some reason, I'm finding myself helping people that I don't know, and I don't really know why, but it's got something to do with Zidane, and she doesn't really understand it yet.
Yeah.
She probably likes it. But, that's the feelings she's wrestling with.
Bit, yeah. And yeah, in that scene, she's like, "Oh, if only you hadn't treated me like a child, you made me do this or whatever." But yeah, so Marcus is heading there to go look for more information about where they can obtain this super soft potion. And Cinna is heading back to Lindblom to inform the rest of the troop about like what's going on and recruit some help or learn information, but just in general, sort of inform people about what their next move is or what they're supposed to be doing. But he is too addicted to the bundt cake and keeps missing the train that goes down into Lindblom. So that's how they ended up here. He's like, "Oh crap, I missed it again." That's funny. And he's like, well, we got to go eat some more cake now, I guess. And so anyway, they have this exchange. Garnet decides that she wants to go with Marcus to help him because she's heading back into Alexandria anyways.
It's kind of on the way, Trino is. It's
talk to her mother and, convince her to stop. So they get on the trolley. They're heading down. It gets kind of stopped in the middle because the Black Waltz number 3,
there's an
who
attack,
had crashed into the gate, obviously sort of fell down to this point. He looks all kind of like messed up. And you have another boss fight against him. And, Dagger keeps trying to ask, because he's like repeating a couple of lines. It's like, return the princess alive, capture the princess, return alive, something like that. It's like, why or who commanded you that I be captured alive? Is this something, what she's getting at is, did my mother give that command? And, he's not able to respond. He's kind of like malfunctioning, sort of.
Right.
In a science fiction setting, these would be robots, not black mages.
That seems to be a pretty good analogy.
Yeah. They chose not to do the whole like sci-fi futuristic setting like they did in 8 and 7. But had they done it, Vivi certainly would have been a robot.
Yeah.
And the black mages also.
And they wouldn't have really affected the story all that much.
No, it would have been more or less the same idea. So anyway, it's not able to respond. It's like it's malfunctioning. So they kill Black Waltz and then go back on their way and head into Trino, which is the city of perpetual night. City of dark.
The dark city Trino.
The dark city.
Yeah. but in the Japanese, it's called the city that never sleeps, something like that. Which
like,
is
Las Vegas.
Yes, exactly. Trino is clearly Las Vegas, a place that looks fun and bright and flashy and interesting, but not any place that you would probably want to live. At least not in the downtown part. Yeah. So as soon as they get to Trino, it's hilarious too. Marcus and Garnet and Steiner end up having this big fight. It's mostly just Steiner being all upset, but he gets upset at Marcus, and then he turns his back, and Garnet leaves, and then he turns around to look at Garnet, and she's gone. Then Marcus leaves, and then Steiner turns back around, and he's just trying to, by right thing, he means the things he has authority to do, right? He's trying to do his directive, but then everybody ends up leaving. And almost every city kind of goes like this. The cast splits up. Yep. Almost every time we go to any city for different reasons, but it always happens. And often it's like a bad omen when characters split up. It's not usually the smart thing to do, but it does lead to some really fun ATEs where you can really just kind of skip around the city and see a lot more and do a lot more and have a lot more interactions with certain characters and certain scenarios that you wouldn't have gotten if everyone was just together all the time, right? Yeah. They would have had to have cut a lot of it because, this is taking too long. But if you just have a quick ATE that's like 30 seconds long, you can fit in a lot of stuff in this city, and you can give people a better idea of how the city feels, how it functions, what's going on here. Yeah. I'm
a big fan of this gimmick, if you want to call it that. But the purpose for why they do this, basically anytime the party arrives at a new place, they split up. Yeah. And they do that so that they can do these ATEs, which is a whole system they've set up.
And so that they build the characters too. It's character building stuff. And it helps us to see how these characters act in isolation without other people around. Yeah. It's very helpful.
The reason I like it so much, though, is they could more or less play all of these cutscenes out in the way you would typically expect them to happen.
Sure.
By keeping the party together, and they just move from screen to screen and another scene takes place.
Yeah.
But this way they break up those character moments in a way that allows you to kind of move around and play the game, so that you're not just having 45 minutes of cutscenes when you get to a new place and then you can play the game again.
Right.
You can move around, go to shops, talk to NPCs, and watch these extra scenes if you would like to do that.
Right.
They kind of put that in your hands as the player. And again, it keeps the pacing of the game moving really briskly, rather than what I think is the conventional sort of narrative-driven game. As far as like how it's structured, you get to the point of interest, you watch a lot of cutscenes, then you play the game again for another hour or plus stretch, get to the next place of interest, watch another 30 to 45 minutes of cutscenes. They break that up with ATEs in a way that I think is really nice, and a way that keeps you feeling like you're interacting and playing rather than just sitting and watching for a really long time. So I thought that that was really well done. Now, I want to talk about Trino, as well as Burmecia and Clara a little bit. Just some background on these cities, because we spent so much time talking about Lindblom and its history and things like that. I think people enjoyed that. So we get not as much. I think Lindblom, of course, is much larger than these other cities are, and has a lot more kind of to look at and to explore and to find out about. But there's still some interesting tidbits. So Dark City Trino, also known as Trino, the City of Nobles, or simply Trino, is an economically polarized city in the Kingdom of Alexandria. So, yeah, it was interesting that it was called the City of Nobles. This is something that Steiner kind of blames Marcus for when they arrive. This used to be a city of nobles. It used to be
your people like you showed up.
Yes, exactly.
Started screwing everything up. Yeah. And sure enough, as soon as Garnett leaves, she gets pickpocketed. And it's just like, geez, this is probably not a place you'd want to live.
Yeah, so this is a place where thieves and criminals kind of make their living, their hideouts, the place where they kind of come to conduct their business, so to speak. So it's a little bit dangerous in that sense. There's, a lot of crime and that kind of thing. And even some kids, I thought this was hilarious, kind of like a rebellious spirit to the nobles have, been oppressive to us, and like we're gonna rise up and like
you hear it from the kids. That's pretty funny.
And like the little brother and sister or whatever. That was kind of funny. So Trino has no middle class. Instead, its inhabitants are either extremely wealthy or extremely poor. The nobles live down on the waterfront. That's what this girl was talking about. They took up all the prime real estate next to the water, and they forced us up into the hills.
Right.
While the poor live up in the slums around the city. Trino is known as the Dark City due to the perpetual state of darkness. I think I'm not sure if they ever explained that part of it. That was something I was looking. Yeah, why it's always dark there.
The presence of Gaia's moon and Terra's moon, along with smaller satellites, creates a complex orbital system that leads to frequent eclipses and strange weather patterns, making night the norm. Additionally, the lingering effects of dark matter, a magical substance associated with the city, contribute to the perpetual darkness. So it does explain it somewhere.
It's probably an Ultimania thing, I would guess.
Well,
because I can't remember if there's an NPC that describes that in the game.
Yeah.
I've played the game like a bunch of times. I've never heard anyone in the game explain why the city's always dark.
Here's why. That's just cool.
That describes that in the game.
Yeah.
I've played the game like a bunch of times. I've never heard anyone in the game explain why the city's always dark.
Here's why. That's just cool. That's why. You got one city that's always dusty. You've got one. Let's have a city that's a dark city. It's just always dark, and you don't have to explain it.
Yeah, necessarily.
And it's always night.
Yeah.
So it's always sleep time, but it never sleeps because the sleep never comes. That reminds me of the line from Chronicles of Narnia where they say it's always winter but never Christmas, right?
Yeah,
always winter, never Christmas. So it's always dark but never sleepy, right?
Yeah.
But you can almost imagine. I remember this was a long time ago. Holy cow. You might have actually been the one to come up with this, or maybe it was Landon. Remember the Coat Crushing Chronicle?
Yes.
Do you remember how that was going to extend to be this whole series?
Yeah, we were talking about making
this stupid thing that we made a very long time ago. But one of the ideas within the city was that there would be cities with just one type of person.
Yes.
And that one of the funniest ideas from Landon was there will be a city of mayors. They're all mayors. And it's just the typical type of mayor, and they all come from the city. But a city of mayors. Anyways, it's funny to think of ideas like this, and I'm sure that they did this in pre-production. Just like, what's a city that is constantly in a specific state that we can just apply here? And that's where Bermesia comes from, and Trino, and these cities that are just one thing, and they're always that thing, even if it doesn't make sense. Right? And it's cool. I feel like this probably came out of some brainstorming there. And it's like, how do we like finagle the physics to make it work technically that it's always dark? It's just always dark.
Yeah. As far as like new gameplay mechanics and things like that, there's not like too much that comes up here. The card game, like the stadium or the building where they do the card tournament,
the arena,
is here. The arena is here in Trino. And you're not going to be sort of forced to do the card game until later. Yeah. There's like a section of the story where the card game will become like a mandatory thing. But that's there. You have, I think her name is Stella. She's like the bird lady that wants the Stellazio coins, which are, you know, the like Gemini and
Gemini.
The freaking
which you get from
what are those called?
Donating tons of money to the fountain.
The astrological signs.
Oh, Zodiac.
The Zodiac sign. So I thought this was really funny. It's probably a translation issue. Yeah. But I would assume if a remake of this game were to happen, by the way, we're recording this, the date of recording this is the 25th anniversary of Final Fantasy IX. So happy birthday to Final Fantasy IX. But people were sort of suspecting or hoping, I guess, coping.
For an announcement. Coping.
That there would be a Final Fantasy IX remake announced on this date. I remember the same thing we were thinking they would do on the 25th anniversary of Final Fantasy VII. Remember we had a podcast on that day? And we were like, certainly they'll announce something or show something from the Final Fantasy VII remake on the 25th anniversary of... I think the game had already been announced technically.
Or was it the 20th anniversary then? Because that remake was 20...
It would have been 2017.
17, yeah.
Is that your... Yeah,
that would have been
the 20th anniversary.
Yeah, 25th
we thought it was
going
to be. We thought it was going to be the 20th anniversary. Anyway, they don't do something
a year or two later.
They don't do something just because it's the anniversary date.
It's possible that they might have planned it, but like the game gets delayed, and it's like, look, we can't announce it yet. It's not ready. Like, just screw it. Would have been nice, but no.
Yeah. So anyway, this lady with the Stellazio coins. There's this really funny thing because you can pick up the Cancer Stellazio coin in Bermesia. It's really easy to miss. It's behind like a little cart on like the second screen of the city. It's just chilling out there. So if you give her, I think you have access to like 5 of them at this point. If you give her 5 of them, you get different rewards.
From the fountain, you can get Gemini. I remember.
Yeah, so you get Gemini on the first screen of Trino and the fountain on the left.
Yeah.
You have to toss
like
money
1,000 gil
in there a bunch of times before you'll get it.
Yeah.
But no, anyway, I'm taking too long to get to the point. The funny thing in the translation is she always says, oh, you have the name of the Gemini or the name of the Zodiac sign. You have Gemini. Could you please give me your Gemini?
Right.
And then you like give it to her and she gives you a prize. Well, with Cancer, it just ends up sounding really funny.
Oh my gosh, no. I didn't think of that.
Would you please give me your Cancer?
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's funny.
It probably should have been translated as your Cancer coin or that Cancer Stellazio coin or something like that.
See, this is why sometimes like translation's not as easy as it sounds and different, you know. Like sometimes you got to, you can't just plug in, you just do the code and say, oh, just insert word here, you know? It's like, hey, maybe double check that before you just roll with it.
Also, when you pick up the Cancer coin, it says, you got cancer.
You got cancer. And it's like in purple. Cancer. It's a color. They color code the words sometimes. Oh, it's so funny, man.
Really, really, really funny. Anyway, but they also have the auction house here, which is kind of a staple of Final Fantasy by this point. They have
Every
a
game's
battle
gotta have
arena
one.
here, which has also kind of become a staple. So a lot of those
A
things,
gondola.
yeah, a lot of those things you had kind of come to expect as a recurring sort of mini game or side piece of content. A lot of that stuff is here. This would be, I guess, it's kind of a gambler's town.
Wait, I
it's
just
kind
realized-
of like Gold Saucer-esque.
It's okay. Gold
Sort of.
Saucer. The song, the do 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 do
Oh,
do
yeah,
do
yeah,
do
yeah.
do 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 do. The song fits right. It would be right at home with the Golden Saucer. The music that played at Trino, but I just now realized it's Reno, Nevada. That's where the name comes from.
That's funny.
I'm like 70% sure. They were like, it's not Las Vegas, but it's like Las Vegas. Oh, Reno, Trino. There you go.
Yeah, that wouldn't be surprised either. So Garnet takes off. She gets pickpocketed. Steiner's trying to find her. You can run into the guy who pickpocketed her. That scene's really funny.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's one of those like, hey, like, what's going on? Oh, have you seen like a girl come through here? What do you mean?
I didn't steal anything.
I haven't seen a beautiful girl with long hair. And I didn't say anything about taking all of her money.
He just totally divulges all the info.
I'm so sorry. You could take this. I bought it with the money I stole. And I think it's like a
I can't remember.
power
It was a
belt.
shield
I think it's power
Oh,
belt.
a belt. That was it. Yeah.
Like a piece of equipment.
Yeah.
So make sure you get that.
And he just gives it to you and runs away.
Yeah,
It's so funny.
The synth shop is there. You can do the cotton robe trick again if you want to do that, and which I would suggest because there's a lot of good new equipment that can be obtained from the auction house, and some of it can be pretty expensive. Some of it can be pushing up to like 20,000 gil to get some of that equipment. But really good equipment. Fairy earrings and a bunch of other stuff. I think Medane ring and anyway, a bunch of good equipment is there. But anyway, he continues looking for her. She wanders into the auction house and looks up into what would you call it? It's like
the balcony,
the balcony area, and sees Kuja standing
Kuja's
up there.
And
She doesn't know who this is, but she has
doesn't.
seen him before.
She recognizes him though.
Yeah,
and if even from the distance with the pixelated view, you can still kind of guess that it's Kuja.
Yeah,
it's not as obvious. But yeah, she's like, "Oh, I've seen that man before," and you wouldn't know. We know who he is because of Burmecia, but I always forget, oh, she wasn't there. That's right, she wasn't there. She didn't see him, but she's seen him before. Oh, yeah, she was talking about some mysterious man back in Lindblom when she was talking to Sid. So you're able to kind of connect the dots that way and to be like, oh, this must be the mysterious man that she was referring to.
Yeah.
And so, you look up, and then I think after the auction's over, even before that, he's just gone. He's only there for a second, and then he's gone.
Yeah.
And we do see him a little bit later. He is very surprised to see that Garnet has wandered right into where he wants. In fact, he even says, I'm tempted to believe in fate after seeing these events unfold so perfectly.
Yeah, he uses the canary analogy again.
He does.
Connecting Princess Garnet with this bird symbol that has already, as you've pointed out, been associated with her.
Yeah.
He is very theatrical and kind of poetic in his dialogue.
Yeah.
Which, again, I think we talked about this last time, is sort of the Kefka side of the meshing between the Sephiroth and Kefka character.
Right.
That we kind of were talking about last time, Kuja maybe representing two of this series' most iconic villains in one character. But he's very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not verbose necessarily as much as like
flowery is what I'd say.
Yeah, it's flowery, but there's a very specific word where it's big. Anyway, not
grandiose.
Grandiose is a good analogy, not analogy, synonym for it.
Yeah.
Anyway, but he's definitely playing it up. He uses a play or theater as an analogy in his dialogue with Garnet later too.
Yes, he does.
When he puts her to sleep or whatever.
Yes, and right in front of Queen Braun.
Yeah.
And he shows up during that scene, and he's just like, "Oh, what a wonderful moment in the act," or something like that. Can I be a part of this play?
Yeah.
And then he starts like reading as though he's reading it from a script.
Yeah.
It's really interesting the way that he kind of sees the world. And if you're going to say, "Oh, he sees the world as a play," with events unfolding as though they were made for entertainment or as though they were pre-planned, you could say. And then he maybe sees himself as maybe off the board. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not one of the pieces. I can be if I want to, but I have the freedom. Maybe I'm one of the puppet masters, right? I'm controlling the strings. All of you guys are just the puppets, right? And I step in when I want to, but I step out when I want to. That's kind of, it feels like that's how he sees everything. And it's so ingrained in his mind that when he chooses to intervene, he acts the part. He becomes a character
He has
in his own
prepared
story.
lines
Yeah.
for those moments.
Oh
Almost.
man, just imagine him just like brooding, like at night or something. Like, oh, I want to say this line one day. I need to create a character create a scene where I can enter and then read the lines.
Yeah.
It's so poetic.
Yeah, it kind of does feel like that a little bit.
He also references like fairy tales and things like that.
Yeah, but there's a wealthy family that kind of owns this auction house. And the guy who was running the auction, later on, there's a scene where he and Kuja are talking with each other. So obviously he has an in with some of the wealthy families, which is where you can imagine Kuja got the resources, money, things that he needed in order to gain the position that he's had, make his alliances with Queen Braun and others politically and make his moves. So, you can imagine maybe he kind of got his start here in Trino and sort of rose up the ranks here, gained favor with the nobles and the rich, and then kind of launched his plans from there.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah.
By the way, do you know the Germanic word for noble?
No.
It is Adel or Adel. Right. So Adalbert Steiner is his name. It's actually like built into his name.
Yeah. So you finally catch up with Marcus, who made his way down into a hideout where he meets with Baku. And Baku is more or less set up this heist they're going to pull to go get the super soft. It's kind of funny because like, okay, when are we going? Well, as soon as possible, but you're going to be taking some, like, I don't know if he says baggage or something along with you. He's referring to you're going to take Steiner and Garnet with you.
Yeah.
I would assume, maybe not though, but that the reason he would have thought of this is because perhaps they would run into someone like Dr. Tot if they were there, and it would be nice to have Garnet there. But I don't know if he knew about that connection or not, because I was trying to piece together, like, why would he set it up on purpose for Marcus to, like, take Garnet and Steiner with him on the heist? But that's the only reason I could think of. But if he had done his research, as anyone who's pulling a heist would do, they'd go scout the place out. Who's here? What are their movements? Who is typically where and at what times?
Well, because Dr. Tot, he left Alexandria just 1 year ago. It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
So he was Garnet's tutor until the day that Queen Braun changed, which is also the day that Kuja showed up, which is also the day that Dr. Tot got fired and had to go somewhere else. And this all kind of happened all at once. So Tot went down to Trino. So he's only been in Trino for a year. So that would be, where did he come from? Oh, he was from the castle. Oh, what did he do at the castle? Oh, he tutored the princess. That was kind of just my thinking. If you were to research the who's who and who are the people who arrived here recently from Alexandria, you would find his name because he came here recently.
Right.
And then you would find, who was he? He tutored Princess Garnet. So anyways, just to kind of link up with your idea that maybe they knew enough about him to know that he was her tutor to want to bring Garnet with them.
Like maybe in case they were to bump into each other, this could be a good reason for her to come along.
But what's really funny is as he's kind of, laying out the plan, he keeps saying, Master Tot, he keeps saying the name wrong over and over and over.
Oh, yeah.
So it's Toots, and then it ends up getting worse and worse later on. It's really, really funny. And then Marcus corrects him too. Oh, okay. It's really funny. But also Steiner is kind of like, I remember when they first said, so when are we going to steal the super soft? And Steiner was like, steal it? Oh, I will not tolerate the committing of crimes in my presence. And it's like, dude, how do you think we're going to get it, man?
The exact dialogue for that. It was so funny.
It was wonderful.
You dare, like, basically plan a crime in my presence or something like that? What did he say? He said, Steiner says, Princess, this is Trino, the city of nobles. Dagger says, we need to find out which noble has the super soft. Marcus says, there aren't many nobles living here. The nights are long. It's a great place for thieves. Steiner says, people like you turned this city into a slum. Then Marcus says, let's steal the super soft and get this over with. And Steiner says, steal? How dare you? Do you think I'd let you commit a crime before my very eyes?
I love it too because he's got a little bit of a double standard because he's excusing all of the crimes that he himself has had to commit in order to even get here in the first place.
Right.
And it's like, oh, but that's, those were crimes of necessity, right? Like smuggling someone in through the South Gate. But your crimes are all bad and evil and need to be punished.
Yes. And, that was kind of pointed out to him. Like, who's to say what's right and wrong? You.
Right.
Now, she's ready to go. He's like running after her, like, Princess, please reconsider. Like, no, we can't do this. This is a crime. And I think it's Baku who says something really interesting to him right before this.
Is it kind of like you can't think for yourself kind of thing? Yes.
This is really key for Steiner's character development. So, Princess, please wait. It may be a trap. You cannot trust criminals. Think of the consequences. You are a princess. If the queen hears about this. And she's just ignoring him and walking down there, right?
Yeah.
And Baku says, Princess, do you know that breaking and entering is a crime? Like, you know what you're doing. You really want to do this? Mm-hmm. I need to make sure that you don't steal anything else. I liked that response.
That's the reason why.
That was good stuff. And Marcus says, let's go. And then Steiner says, damn it, I'm coming along. It's my duty to protect the princess from bad influence. And Marcus is like, fine, do what you want. And then Baku says, always talking about your duty. Ain't you got thoughts of your own? And Steiner says, don't talk back to me. I'm escorting the princess. I thought you might have changed after traveling with Zidane, but you ain't changed. Do you even know why you're here? What do you mean? Let's just go, okay? And so that's what begins this introspective sort of mood that he gets in when he's on this little boat. And I love this scene. There's like 5 layers of parallax here. You have like the extreme foreground where there's like a little lamp post.
That's right.
Just like little posts that kind of go by. Then you have
a lot of things are moving.
Them in the boat as it's kind of like going in.
Oh, so
and then there's like some like stone arcs kind of directly behind them, but they have like windows, so to speak, peeking through into the background behind that.
Yeah.
And so you have these like 5 layers of just really beautiful parallax on these backgrounds. Again, can't praise enough the backgrounds in this game. They're all immaculate. They're all super detailed and really, really, really well done.
Yeah, it's beautiful to look at.
Yeah, and so this scene is just really beautiful visually. But they have this really nice sort of split screen that they do.
Yeah, I loved this.
Where on one side of the boat, Steiner's looking off in that direction and like thinking and being introspective. And on the other side of the boat, you have Garnet looking the other way, also thinking to herself. So 2 kind of nice internal monologues here.
Yeah.
And Steiner says, what in the world am I doing? That was the question he was just asked. Do you even know what you're doing?
Yes.
What in the world am I doing? I'm assisting thieves in committing a crime.
Pretty plain.
No, I must be patient. Protect the princess, escort her back to the castle, focus on your duties. Trust the queen, she would never commit an atrocity. There must be a good reason. No thoughts of my own? Nonsense. How can I, a lowly knight, understand the queen's thinking? It's a complete contradictory statement to say, no thoughts of my own, nonsense. How can I, a lonely knight, understand the queen's thinking? It's like directly, I have thoughts of my own. I can't question what the queen, I can't understand what she thinks.
It's kind of like him trying to rationalize why, even though he has thoughts of his own, he ought not go against the queen's thoughts because she is just so much smarter than him.
Yeah. I need not worry about the ramblings of a criminal. Just think about escorting the princess home. I'll probably never see him again. Baku. He was the culprit. Actually, he's thinking of Zidane here. He's not thinking of Baku.
Yeah.
I'll probably never see him again. Him is Zidane. He was the culprit. He pulled the princess and me straight into his intrigues. And so happens Dagger's also thinking about Zidane at the same time. So that's a nice kind of like handoff there.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he says, oh, it's his fault. And then we sweep back over to Garnet, and she's thinking about him
as well.
I like that. That's good.
Kind of a nice handoff to her monologue. It was your fault, Zidane. If you hadn't treated me like a child, I wouldn't be here hunting after Super Soft to save one of your friends. Why am I doing this? So she asks herself the same question.
Yeah.
Because blank saved me? Yes, he saved me. He saved my life. The least I can do is return the favor. But I never thought about things like this before. And by things like this, a couple ways you can take that. Things like what? Like saving people from. No, I don't think she's thinking about those things. I think it's a little more romantic feelings about.
There's a lot of ellipses happening there too, where she's like, "Why am I doing this?" ... Oh yeah, blank. Oh, because he saved me that one time. Oh yeah, that's right. That's why I'm doing this. She's post hoc reasoning for why she's doing the actions that she's doing. She's like, oh yeah, which is what often we do when we do anything. We always kind of try to think back on why we did it, and sometimes we just need to make up a reason. Because it can't be because I like Zidane. That's what it can't be. That's what she's really thinking. But in she's trying to like push that out and be like, no. It's because blank, he gave us the map, and I really ought to help him, right? And that's, she's avoiding the truth and the real reason, and she's kind of covering it up herself a little bit. But she is still kind of thinking about it a little, and that's why she asks herself later on, I usually don't think about stuff like this. Like, what's wrong with me today?
So anyway, they get in, they're looking around for the Super Soft, and that's when Dr. Tot unexpectedly shows up.
Yeah.
He ran out of ink or something like that. He's going to come and get some more ink.
At first you kind of think you're caught, but then Garnet is like, wait a second, I know you.
Yep.
And he knows her right away, so that was fun.
And so, they catch up for a second, but then someone else is about to come down. He's like, go to my house. I'll meet you there. We can talk more. We don't want you to get caught here. So they leave without the Super Soft, but he says, I'll bring it to you later.
Right.
So you end up going back to this tower because he's doing research. So he had been looking for
like astronomy,
a noble or somebody rich to like sponsor his research, right? And so he has been given this like tower to live in and conduct his research by whatever noble owns the place. So he lives up in there. And I loved, because we had talked about this, I think in the last episode, some of the similarities between Final Fantasy VII's story and Final Fantasy IX's story.
Yeah,
and
this
I feel is another one of those.
Yeah,
this feels a little bit like Bugenhagen's little
like observatory
in Final Fantasy VII
in the canyon.
Dr. Tot has this big room, but he's got a giant globe of Gaia, the world, in there, and it's kind of broken down. It's like an old model, so that it's like hollow on the inside, and so you can walk into it, and he has built like a telescope from inside of that to look out at the stars.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, it's ironic, isn't it? That we're watching the stars from inside a globe of the earth or whatever.
Right.
But it's reminiscent of that. So he's kind of like a Bugenhagen-esque character.
Yeah.
This game's Bugenhagen, so to speak. Someone who's very knowledgeable about the world, somebody who is kind of the spark for a lot of introspection or change on the parts of the characters when they arrive and meet him. In FF7, you have that whole campfire scene there in Cosmo Canyon, and the things that they learn from Bugenhagen, they all gets them thinking a little bit more deeply about life, right?
Yeah.
And this is not nearly as long or in-depth a scene as that was in that game, but Dr. Tot kind of serves as that in a big way here for Steiner. So he and Garnet kind of catch up a little bit, but there are a lot of important hints for the story dropped by him in this flashback. So he brings the Super Soft. I liked this because he's like, the Super Soft is there in that chest behind you. And one thing they do really well in this game is just the blocking of the scenes. Because Marcus was not necessarily standing with them when they were talking to Dr. Tot. You have Steiner and Garnet there talking to him. And then as they're talking, Marcus is kind of slowly walking up the stairs. And it's timed just perfectly to where Dr. Tot says, the Super Soft is in the chest right there, as Marcus turns and goes, don't mind if I do.
Yeah,
and just goes and like picks it up.
And Steiner's like, what, you don't even say thank you? And Marcus just kind of grabs it and leaves. Yeah. And Steiner's just really upset at how the whole thing went.
Again, just the blocking, the timing of all of it. Very, very funny, very theatrical in the way it's blocked and planned. Right. So anyway, he and Garnet have a little bit of a flashback here to when he was her tutor back in Alexandria. And he drops a lot of really important little tidbits about the world that we're not going to go into detail on right now necessarily or answer the questions, but I think it's important to know what questions are being brought up and to keep them in mind for later in the playthrough. So we go to, here it is, flashback time. Tot and a very young Garnet are in a library. Two phrases are commonly found in documents more than 500 years old. One is jewel. The other is summoner tribe. So two things here. One, and I think this is something that the first time I played Final Fantasy IX, I just, for whatever reason, was not paying close enough attention. But the jewel in Clara is way more important than I thought it was or gave it credit for at this point in the story.
Yeah.
But here, they're kind of planting this. So the jewels are important, or this term jewel, right? So he says, two phrases commonly found in documents more than 500 years old. Jewel, the other is summoner tribe. But 500 years ago, the phrases mysteriously vanished from history. The archaeologist Frederick Ashe theorized that jewel refers to the pendant passed down to the ruler of Alexandria. Garnet has one such pendant, that she wears around her neck. But the pendant, it is much too small to be referencing the same jewel. Other research suggests a relationship between eidolons and magical stones. So,
is this the first time we hear the word eidolon?
I think so.
I think so too.
This term was used once before in the Final Fantasy series. It was the name for summons in Final Fantasy IV.
Okay.
It's also the name of summons in this game. They're called eidolons.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 13 is another game that uses that term, and I don't know if 14 does or not. I can't remember. Anyway, once in a while in the series, they change the names of summons. In Final Fantasy VIII, they were Guardian Forces.
Yeah.
In Final Fantasy
GF.
VI, they were Espers.
Yeah.
And in Final Fantasy IV, they were Eidolons. In this game, they're Eidolons again. In Final Fantasy X, they called them Aeons. So sometimes they have different names. I think they were called Astrals in, 15 or something?
Oh, yeah.
And then Icons in Final Fantasy 16.
That's right. Yeah.
So anyway, in this game, they're called Eidolons. So that's what he's referring to with that term. That's what the summons of Final Fantasy IX are called. So as he's doing this, he's kind of thinking out loud. Garnet comes in. Dr. Tot, princess, were you reading that big book again? I've already read every book in this library, but I think better when I'm surrounded by old books. Really, I don't like books. You're a person of dignity. It's imperative that you study hard. Were you going to say something?
In the Japanese, she doesn't say I don't like books. She mostly says I don't like difficult books, or I don't like hard books, right?
What would probably be more like nonfiction?
Yes, anything that's not, just like a fun story, and then his rebuke to her is actually not about her reading at all. It's actually about her use of language. They actually have a whole argument in the Japanese about the use of honorifics, and she called herself Atashi, and she was supposed to refer to herself as Watakushi instead of Atashi. Atashi's too informal, and so he's like, "Oh, you're supposed to speak like a lady. You shouldn't be using informal speech." It's really funny. They had to change it in the English.
That's funny.
You can't have that discussion here.
I would have been interesting to try and leave that and link it to now she's being trained by Zidane to do the exact opposite.
That's fascinating.
Right? Like
yeah.
she speaks too formally, and she needs to undo that training. And so if Tot had been the one to be, conditioning her to speak in a certain way. I know it's different.
I like that. That's funny.
Honorifics and polite speech in Japanese, very different thing from English. So,
well, and then she kind of overdoes it a little bit as well to kind of taunt him in the Japanese. There's just no way to really translate that well into tough. English. She says like "de gozaimasu" instead of "desu," but it's funny the way that and then she forgets later on, and it's just really this whole exchange is very different in the Japanese.
Yeah, that's interesting. So he says, you have to study hard. I know, but I was quite taken by that book you gave me. What was it called? And Tot says, I Want to Be Your Canary by Lord Avon. This same play, brought up again.
It's her favorite one.
And again, linking her to this bird, right? The canary, like that symbol. They're doing this so many times in the game. Oh, yes, that's the one. So where is the book I like? Oh, so there is a book I like after all. What's this, Dr. Tot? And there's a globe kind of on the table there. That's a globe of Gaia. It's a model of our planet. And so she's like, oh, where's my house?
Oh yeah, the
not
castle.
house. Yeah.
Like, oh, so the castle's shaped like a sphere? That's strange because her whole world is just the castle.
Yeah. I never know our castle was shaped like a sphere.
Yeah.
We live on the surface, princess. So he's like explaining this to her. And then, yes, the stars, they inspired the theories relating stones and eidolons. That is why, oh my, I was lost in thought again. So they're, again, kind of hammering home jewels or stones and eidolons and the summoner
connection.
tribe.
Yeah.
There's something important about those things. Where's my room on this globe, is what she says. Oh, your room's much too small to point out on this globe. What about the castle? Well, that I can do. And then you kind of flash forward back to the current day. Oh, how long ago was that? 8 years? And then he says, she asks, where did you find this globe, this giant globe they're standing inside of? It's an antique. It's broken, as you can see, but I use it as an observation deck. Ironic, isn't it? Looking up at the sky from inside a globe. So they're having a kind of a nice moment there. Yeah. But Dr. Tot essentially gives them a way to get back to Alexandria. There are these tunnels, kind of secret tunnels.
Which, once again, even Steiner didn't know about, which is interesting. This seems to be a pretty
common
efficient way. It seems to be common enough that
he doesn't know.
You should know about it.
I misunderstood where you were going. Yeah, I was going to say it's common that he doesn't know things.
Oh, yes, it's common.
You would think that he would know. But you were saying that this tunnel...
It didn't seem like that big of a secret.
Yeah. It's I feel like it's maybe kind of fell into disuse in the same way that a lot of the older kind of like methods of getting around have been, right? Like
that makes sense.
They don't
That's
take
better.
chocobos around on, through the mist anymore.
So it's airships now.
They fly over everything.
So they don't use these tunnels.
So it's the age of airships, and so all of this stuff is just sort of fell into disuse.
I like that. That's way better than Steiner just not knowing about a common like highway in between two major cities.
But it's really cool. I just think it's really imaginative and a very cool fantasy sort of
this is
mode
very
of transportation.
Cool. Yeah.
There's like a gargant is the name of this giant insect that kind of grasps onto a rail hanging upside down and walks along it, and underneath is carrying like a little carriage that people get inside of, and it just sort of like walks its way in
and they
between.
Like feed it at the stations, and that's how they get it to do what they want.
Yeah, really cool. Really unique, really interesting. Again, another just visual that sort of sets this game apart, makes it feel really unique as a world. But he essentially has access to this tunnel, sets it up so they can get onto this thing, and they head back towards Alexandria. It'll just take them right up to the castle pretty much. So they're on their way. You do fight a boss in between there, but it's Marcus, Steiner, and Garnet going together. Marcus decides to go with them because it'll be easier for him to reach the Evil Forest from Alexandria
than from Trino.
But once they arrive at the castle, they're captured pretty much right away.
Yeah, by Zorn and Thorn. The oldest trick in the book. Like, I can't believe it. And I love it at the end when you're escaping the castle. They're like, they fell for it again. It's really funny. But yeah, you walk in, they capture you right away. And then you're led to this is hilarious. Garnet is separated, and then Steiner and Marcus are placed together in a prison chamber that's like floating and hanging from the ceiling. There are so many memorable moments from this game.
There really are.
But as soon as I saw that, I was, so many memories came flooding back. Oh, that's right. I love, and they got to swing it to escape. It's just so much fun. I love how they varied the gameplay so well in this game. It's wonderful.
It's great.
But yeah, then Garnet gets taken to be with her mother, but this is also around the time where we kind of learn there's another kind of flashback to Zidane and what's going on there, right?
Yes.
And Clara, which we haven't even talked about yet, and we are an hour and a half into this podcast.
This is what I'm thinking. Maybe we can talk about, it's not going to be the resolution of the scene, but the next part of it, and then we can get into Clara next time. But then we'll just carry on from that point.
Sounds good.
All the way to what did I say we should leave off for next time? I think it was
Aiko's place.
Medane's Sorry. So through Medane's Sorry, basically get through that section, and then the following week we'll go to the end of disc 2. But because there's kind of a lot to talk about with.
Then we're gonna have to kind of wrap up what happened in Clara, though, because it's very relevant to what happens here.
Yes.
So Clara's gets just nuked.
Yes. So we'll get to the Clara part of this next time. But she thinks she can talk to her mother. She doesn't understand why they've been not kidnapped, but captured.
Yeah.
Why Steiner and Marcus are being held prisoner, why she's technically also being held prisoner. She's brought in to talk to her mother. She's like, Mother, what's going on? She tries to directly confront her about, were you involved in the destruction of Burmecia? Well, yes, but like
they were going to attack us first.
I had to take the initiative.
Oldest trick in the book.
Really true? Like you can kind of press her on it,
and the queen is like, yes, of course.
And she
because you can choose. You have the option to choose to believe or not. Yeah.
I chose not to believe, and at that point,
you get thrown right in the dungeon.
This is where, like we alluded to earlier, Kuja enters.
Kuja shows up,
and
it's a play. Can I have a part in this play?
Yeah.
Ooh, this is the most dramatic bit. Yeah.
And
then he puts her to sleep. Yeah.
Now,
and he references Sleeping Beauty, sleep for 100 years.
May I also play a part in this act?
It's so good.
Dagger. Act. Kuja. Yes, an act from a beautiful play. There's a knight on a white horse and a beautiful princess. It is a tale of tragic love. Overcome by grief, the princess must sleep for 100 years. I've seen you before. It appears we were destined to meet again. My sweet angel, come to me. He walks up to her and holds her, like takes a hold of her. I will put you into a world of dreams. I will take you to a world of dreams.
I will take you to a world of dreams?
Yeah,
For some reason, I thought that was an Aladdin reference, but okay, keep going. It may not be.
She is beautiful, even in sleep. And then Bronn's tone totally changes here. Impudent little girl. Zorn, Thorn, prepare to extract the Eidolons from Garnet. So there's a whole, essentially, ritual that happens here where Garnet is laid on like an altar.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Zorn and Thorn are kind of like doing this dance and enchantment.
They're the priests of the place, I guess.
Conducting this ritual.
Yeah.
And they're trying to extract Eidolons from her.
Which can only be done at the age of 16, by the way.
Yes.
That there's some rule about this. That you could ask, why didn't Bronn do this earlier? Well, you can't. Until she's 16 years old, you can't do this ritual that needs to be performed.
Yeah. So there's not like a whole lot we can, I think, yet directly talk about in terms of what this ritual is. We'll learn a lot more really soon about Garnet's past, like where she came from, a little bit about that very, very opening scene of the game, the little boat that was on the rough seas, and what was going on with that. So we'll revisit a lot of that and talk more about Eidolons and how and why Garnet had to have Eidolons extracted from her.
Why she even had them in the first place.
It'll all kind of come together when we reach Medain Sari, which is where we're playing up to for next time.
But there's one line that Tot says that I don't think we've touched on yet when we go down into where the Gargants are.
Yes.
Which I love. It's Gargant, so the ant, but it's Gargantuan. That's wonderful. But Tot kind of pulls Steiner aside for a minute here. And you alluded to this at the beginning of the episode, but we haven't really gone through the dialogue yet. When Tot tells Steiner, he says, hey, are you willing to do what it takes to save the princess? And he's like, I'll do everything in my authority to do. And Tot kind of presses him, like, what if it would help the princess to disobey your authority? And Steiner's like, I don't know what you mean, right? He doesn't know what to say. And then Tot says, please make your own decision about the matter at hand and protect the princess. And Steiner's like, my own decision? Like, does not compute. He can't. Like, I don't make my own decisions about anything. And this also harkens back to what Baku was saying when he's like, you like, well, in the Japanese, what he says is, you keep saying I, but there's no I to speak of. You aren't even a person. You just do what you're told. And that's what Baku basically tells Steiner in the Japanese. In the English, it's a little different, but he's basically saying the same thing. Like you're just a puppet, buddy. Like, we're doing stuff and your opinion doesn't matter because you're not even like a person. You don't even have like a sentient consciousness to make decisions. You just do what you're told. So, like, step aside. We're going to go steal this gold needle now, or the super soft now. And so once again, this is like the fourth time that he's been getting this advice very, very directly because there was the coffee drinking dude back in Dali, and then Baku, and I'm sure people told it to him before. Garnett keeps telling him this. Zidane keeps reminding him of this, and now Dr. Tot. But the thing is, Dr. Tot seems to have gotten through a little bit more than all the others.
He respects Dr. Tot.
Exactly.
A lot,
He likes Dr. Tot. Dr. Tot used to work at the castle. He seems to respect Dr. Tot a lot more. He knows Dr. Tot. Okay, so this advice is coming from somebody that maybe he should take a little more seriously, right? And then in the English, he's like, okay, well, I shall consider your advice, and then he just leaves. In the Japanese, he takes it to heart a little bit more. In fact, that's more or less what he says. He says, I'll take your advice to heart. The way the Japanese do it, it's liver. So I'll inscribe it on my liver is what he says in the Japanese. But in the English, it basically means, and this once again, this is the third episode in a row, I'm going to give credit to Vagrant Chocobo, who has done a wonderful analysis of the differences between the Japanese and the English. Just a wonderful channel. If you didn't listen to me the last 2 times, listen to me this time. Go check it out. You will not be disappointed. But what he reads into this is basically the I will write it on my liver basically means I will take your advice to heart, which is a little more sincere than what he says in the English, which is a formal, I shall. It seems like he's kind of brushing it off a little, like, I'll think about it. I'll think about it. But in the Japanese, it's a little more direct, like, I'll seriously think about it. And then he walks into the guardian's carriage.
I'm glad that you brought this scene up because I had wanted to talk about this. It's interesting the way that Tot is finally able to get through to him because he says, if you don't start thinking for yourself, you may put the princess in danger.
Right.
Like if you aren't careful and you just follow all your orders, what if that jeopardizes the princess's safety?
Which is your ultimate goal. Right. So your ultimate goal is to follow the highest authority. Well, the biggest directive that you've been given is to protect the princess. What if that comes at the expense of all your other authoritative directives, the rules, And Steiner
that finally gets him to go
that.
like, okay, like, that is at least
like
something to think about.
He sees the point. The lower rules may not be in service of the highest rule, and my real priority should be the highest rule. So, okay, all right, Dr. Professor Pops. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, I'll think about that. And then but it finally, but really not even. It's not until, the climax at Alexandria that he really kind of makes this decision. But you can see these breadcrumbs being laid, and you see him slowly softening up. Because if Dr. Tot had told him this at the very beginning of the game, he would have immediately, gone to attention or, been like, what are you talking about? I should have you arrested for treason, right? And instead, he's like, okay, I kind of get what you're saying at this point.
Yeah. So, good stuff.
He's growing.
Good stuff. I love what they're doing with Steiner.
Me too.
It's great. And like I said, we'll cover Clara next time and then all the way up to Madain Sari. So play up till that point for next week. See you then. How well were you able to learn to accept the losses and learn to appreciate what you had versus allowing those incredibly painful touch points of life to swallow you and to keep you from continuing to live this very limited life that you have, this short space of time you're here. Last time we forgot to talk about Quan's dwelling.
We did.
It's an area next to Trino.
Didn't go there.
You didn't go there?
No, apparently there's something you can get there, right?
Well, yeah, there's one of the, what do they call them? The stiletto.
The stilettos, yeah, because I didn't have all those.
Coins.
Yeah.
You can get that there at this point. So, of course, this will be an area you can come back and visit later in the game.
Right.
But Quan's dwelling is a cave I'm not sure which cardinal direction exactly it is from Trino, but just close by to Trino. There's a little forest that leads back into a bit of a cove, and then there's a cave there, which is where Quan, Vivi's grandfather, lived. So you go in there, and, there's the clock, and there's, tables, and, a person lived in there. And, we would assume Vivi did also for a while. But this is his grandfather, who he's been referring to. This is where Vivi was essentially raised by Quan. There's not necessarily a ton to discuss on this yet, but there are a few items that you can pick up here, one of them being the stiletto that you can take back, the coin that you can take back to, what's her name? Forget her name. Stella, I think. But we will be returning here later in the game, and there will be some scenes with Vivi. And so we'll talk about it more in depth at another time, but there were some people asking about that. And yes, it's there. We'll come back and talk about it more when it's a little bit more relevant. But that is where Quan went in his banishment after he left whatever marsh that he and Quail lived in or grew up in or whatever their tribe comes from. He left and went to live in this cave. And that's where somehow he came across Vivi. There is one really funny line. You can read some, I don't know, he wrote it down maybe on a piece of paper. Vivi's still too small to eat or something like that.
So why does Vivi speak normal, but was raised by a person who speaks completely broken?
That's a good question. Vivi's, his actual kind of discovery and then his early life is not necessarily detailed. We just know that at some point Quan found him. And he began developing his individuality there. But why did he leave? How did he end up in Alexandria? Like, what was the impetus to all this? We'll learn more about it, I think, a little bit later. But as of right now, a lot of that's still very mysterious. But anyway, Quan's dwelling is there. So just wanted to quickly mention that. So this is a little bit back for us in terms of what we've played up to, but we have not covered yet. So figured we could start by talking about the Burmesians and then the kind of history and maybe the relationship between Burmecia and Clara.
Okay, cool.
So there's kind of a lot here that I want to talk through. Hopefully, like, it will at least coincide somewhat with some of your notes. But there's a couple of things that I thought were important to take note of with some of this info. So Burmecia, don't know necessarily exactly when this kingdom was formed, but what is important is to know that the desert star, the little crystal,
it's like a jewel,
jewel is probably the right word for it, that we find in Clara during this section of the game that is sort of up
over the harp.
In the harp. Originally was entrusted to the Burmesians.
Oh, interesting.
Right. So they had that first. It was given to them for safekeeping. The question of its ownership became a contested matter that led to a civil war in Burmecia. And those who were dissatisfied with this sort of war culture that was developing there separated from that main populace and migrated into the desert to form Clara. So it was a place where Burmesians who were not happy with sort of the direction the government was moving with the warlike culture there left to sort of like form a haven of sorts to get away from that.
That makes sense. So that's why the Burmesians are still mostly warriors, but then in Clara, it's like that's where the church is. It's a bunch of clergy people. It's a bunch of old people, and they aren't very good at fighting. They're not necessarily warriors or fighters because they're protected by that sandstone. They don't need that.
They have a different form.
Well, hold on. They don't think they need that.
They don't think they need it. That's a good point. So they are two separate nations, but they share the same heritage. They come originally all from Burmecia. And that desert star, that jewel, was brought to Clara from Burmecia. So now the Clarans keep that. Okay. And it's what powers the sandstorm that shields the city from the outside world. So around 100 years before the game begins, there was another civil war in Burmecia that finally caused Clara to sever all ties from the mother country. The nations of Burmecia and Alexandria waged many wars after that. The most recent one was initiated by Burmecia between 30 and 40 years ago. And so the reason I bring all of this up is to talk about what's called a dummied piece of content. Have you ever heard of that term before, a dummied piece of content?
I don't think so.
It refers to content that still is on the disc of the game, but is cut from the game.
I've heard of this.
So
this kind of
data miners and that sort of thing can go find this stuff on the disc, so it's still there, exists, it's written there, but it was cut from the main game. So there's an interesting piece of dummied content that Steiner says all the way back in Dolly that I wanted to talk about a little bit here. But before I do that, I want to do a bit of a precursor on how seriously or not one should take dummied content.
You don't know when it was cut.
Yes.
It could have been early on.
Yes.
I would say maybe, gosh, like for the Super Nintendo, the content limitations allowing for only such a certain amount of text meant that there was probably not a whole ton of dummied content on those. But with the PS1 discs, all of a sudden the text limitations stopped being so much of an issue. So they could just kind of leave words laying around on the disc and just say, well, we don't reference it. It doesn't matter. We don't have to clean it up because we have enough memory to work with. It's not a big deal.
Right.
Who cares about the text, right? So it could have been cut way early on, or it could have been intended to have been there, but just cut last minute kind of thing.
Yes.
And you never really know.
You never really know. That's kind of the point I'm going to make, is you don't really know why something was cut.
That's right.
You do know why it wasn't cut. It wasn't cut because of memory limitations or some other limitation of the hardware or something like
because it's on the disc.
Because it's on the disc.
Yeah. So
if it's on the disc, that's not the reason.
Yeah.
So it wasn't cut because of a limitation. It was cut for some other purposeful reason, which we do not know.
Right.
So I think it's always important to take dummied content with a grain of salt.
Right.
Because some people want to try to use dummied content as evidence for this or this being true about the story.
Right.
Others say, no, it was cut for a reason because they were trying to remove that idea as being canon for the story and whatnot.
It didn't fit. Maybe it's Sakaguchi himself who said, no, we don't want that line in there. A scenario writer wrote it and it got programmed in and then Sakaguchi cut it. Like that's a potential explanation for things like that.
Sure.
And you don't want to include that into your world building for, what is it, for the lore of the game.
Right. So Final Fantasy IX doesn't have nearly the amount of dummied content that Final Fantasy VII or VIII do. They have a lot more. And when we cover Final Fantasy VII in the future, there's going to be a lot of stuff that will be interesting in terms of dummied content to consider as far as like how may that or may not apply to how we understand the world.
I see.
But
just take it with a grain of salt.
It must always be done first with acknowledging this was cut for a reason.
Yeah.
So this line from Steiner to Morid, who is not in the main village of Dali, but that little windmill kind of off to the side of it.
Yeah.
He's the guy who loves to drink the coffee.
Yeah, he's up in that tall mountain.
Right. So he's talking to him. And it's during the ATE when Steiner's still running around trying to find information about how they can get back to Alexandria.
Okay.
And he's pressing him about when does the cargo ship arrive?
Right.
And the guy won't answer his question. He's like, I freaking command you to tell me when it's coming. And he has that line where he says,
you're green, you're still green.
Yeah, you're still green as a pickle. And what was it? It was something like, who decides who's right or wrong?
Right,
You?
right, something like
And
that.
Steiner was like, oh, everyone knows what's right or wrong, right?
Yeah.
So it's during that conversation. So Moritz starts with, I love the smell of coffee. It relaxes me. How about a cup? Steiner says, oh, thank you. No, I'm not here to drink coffee. Tell me when the cargo ship will arrive, or else Alexandrian royal family will appropriate this property. Moritz says, and then what? Steiner says, I order you to tell me when the cargo ship will arrive. Tell me! And Moritz says, you're not a very creative interrogator.
Right.
And Steiner says, I'm just trying to do what is right.
Yeah.
Moritz said, who decides what's right and wrong? You? Steiner, anyone can tell what's right or wrong. Moritz, still green as a pickle. So all of that is still in the game. None of that was cut. That's the next line from Steiner is what was cut. Alexandria, of course, Bermesia started the war, and we lost our king as a result. So there is something there, but the last war that was fought between Alexandria and Bermesia, the Bermesians started it.
They started it, but Alexandria won.
Alexandria seems to have won, or there was some kind of, I don't know.
Fair enough, compromise.
Which you would,
With
compromise,
38th
or
parallel,
I don't know what you'd call it for medieval war. It's not a ceasefire. It's
it's a word. We're tired and we're done.
we're just like, we agree to stop fighting for now.
Right.
So that happened at some point in the past. But in this dummied piece of content, it is suggested that perhaps this is how the king of Bermesia, the Bron's husband, was killed.
30 years prior?
Yeah. So not to say that that's definitive, concrete lore, but yeah, the Bermesians last time were the ones initiating. This time, obviously, Alexandria is initiating. But
So
sorry, before you get into what you're about to say,
have questions.
there's a really interesting thing to consider here about how in the past, there's sort of this unprecedented era of peace right now
Right.
that coincides with the invention of airships. Before that, there were lots and lots of wars on the Mist continent.
Interesting.
Back when everyone lived and walked around down in the mist.
It's like everyone was more paranoid back then.
Yes.
And suspicious.
Yes.
And as soon as they can rise above the mist, they also rise above their petty conflicts.
So there is probably a connection between the warmongering and the violent history of the Mist continent and being
The mist
in
itself.
the mist all the time. This would make sense given that it has effects on animals and turns them into monsters and these sorts of
It can
things.
do the same to humans.
So with Lindblom inventing the airships and getting people up out of the mist, there is kind of this era of peace. And they start developing technology to try to get away from mist-powered tech.
Right.
They want to use steam-powered stuff now.
Right.
So the mist itself is just a really interesting sort of thing to consider here among the relations of these countries and many wars that they used to fight at one time. Now, we have already talked about how in Bermesia, they have this sort of constant rainfall. I don't know if it's necessarily confirmed anywhere in the game's text necessarily, but that sort of keeps that mist at bay there. It sort of like brings it down, like pollution in the air gets kind of pushed down by rain.
Right, yeah.
But that is the only civilization left down in the mist. Every other city is up in elevated places above the mist at this point. Right. Clara is in a giant tree with the wind storm, the sandstorm that swirls around it. And even like Trino is up on the plateaus, Alexandria's up high, Lindblom is up high. So it seems that in moving up above the mist, an era of peace kind of followed that lasted a pretty long time until now. Bronn, for some reason, that Dagger, Garnet, is suspicious about, is acting strangely. And this is leading to this warlike mindset. and she's trying to conquer and invade, enemy territories or neighboring territories, I should say.
Yeah. So if this was 30 years prior, and that's Bronn's husband, you say? Because she is widowed, it seems.
Well, I don't know how
Garnett, how do they sell to the people that Garnett?
It seems that because Garnett's 16
She's
years old, so
16,
we can go
yeah.
back at least 16-ish years.
Yeah.
Unless
Her father would have had to have been alive at least 17 years ago.
so, however long this war was fought, it says that it started 30 to 40 years ago.
Oh, interesting.
But I don't know how long they continued fighting
Fair
or when that war ended necessarily.
That makes sense.
But we do know how long ago was it that the airships were invented, and because that would have been Sid's father's era, Sid the Eighth.
And they use like the years, like 1790 and stuff like that.
That's
Unfortunately, I'm not able to do that super well. I don't know what year we're currently in within the game, but it's probably 18 something, 1807 maybe.
Whether or not we know the exact year time period, and this might have been part of the reason why the line was cut, who knows, to try to like line up and make the timeline make sense. But in the dummied piece of content, this was how we lost our king, was in this last war with Burmecia. That started something like 30, 40 years ago. Whatever, however long it lasted, I don't know.
It almost sounds like within the line as well that maybe Steiner was going to have had foreknowledge of an attempted attack against Burmecia. Because why else is he bringing up Burmecia right now? It doesn't make sense.
Right. It kind of does feel out of left field.
Yeah, it's like, oh, those darn Burmecians. It's like, interesting.
Yeah. So after he says that, we lost our king as a result. Morid says many wars were fought before the Lindblom airship revolution. Alexandria initiated some of the wars against Burmecia. Now can you tell me who was right or wrong? And then Steiner goes, I'm not talking about the past. I'm talking about the future. Morid says, what will you do if Alexandria starts a war? Steiner, when will the cargo ship arrive? He starts, this is where it gets back into the non-dummied content where it's.
Yeah.
So those two lines between Steiner and Morid were cut. But it's interesting. I like it because it even more cemently, I feel like, sets up or begins the foundation of Steiner's questioning his sense of right and wrong, and whether or not he should be, or whether or not it's right to question the Queen's orders.
Because he's not thinking that far in the past when he says, well, they are the ones who started it. It's like, did the whole world and all of history start 30 years ago? Or was there possibly another conflict prior to that one?
Yeah.
And Steiner's like, well, it doesn't matter who started that one. And he's obviously out of his depth there. But I actually like that the lines were cut because it's introducing things that we shouldn't quite know about yet.
Yeah.
I like the idea that Burmecia, and this is mostly from Dagger's perspective, but that Burmecia is attacked completely out of the blue, like absolutely unjustly. Like it makes no sense why in the world is Bronn doing this. And I think it's maybe better that it's not hinted at that might happen. Oh, what if Alexandria starts another war soon? At this point, we really have no reason to suspect that Bronn is going to start a whole war right now. She may be looking for her daughter, and going to whatever lengths to find her daughter, but a whole new war, and this kind of softens that what otherwise is a very intense moment when holy cow, she's starting a war now. This is insane.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think
I agree with you on that. Yeah.
And also to mention Burmecia, it's just they're getting ahead of themselves here. I think it's better to just kind of leave it how they left it.
Yeah. So that conflict was eventually resolved peacefully when Lindblom intervened with its airship armada, an event that became known as the Airship Revolution. Mm-hmm. The three countries established a diplomatic relationship, marking the end of a long series of wars that had plagued the Mist Continent. So we know that they have the Desert Star, but we're not going to talk more about what that is or where it came from just yet. So there was a civil war fought over the ownership of that jewel, and a group of fundamentalists eventually took the crystal, the Desert Star, and founded Clara in the Vube Desert around 100 years before the time of the game. Following another civil war in Burmecia, Clara severed its ties to the outside world and remained isolated behind its sandstorm. So, just wanted to kind of set up some of that. I think, in particular, it's interesting to consider that this move out of the mist is what sort of started a longer era of peace, but that there were lots and lots of wars fought in the Mist Continent prior to that move out. And that move out was initiated by the airship revolution. So, just wanted to quickly go over that real quick. I think it's important to keep all that in mind as we move through the story here.
Lindblom would have become by far the wealthiest place in the whole continent.
And it looks like it did. If you walk through the city, it looks like it's the most advanced, the most wealthy.
The biggest, the tallest.
Okay, so I didn't take a lot of notes in Clara, like as you're moving up the trunk and getting into the little village itself up top, until learning that Puck, the little rat kid from the beginning,
he's a prince.
Is the Prince of Burmecia. I didn't take many notes before that. So if you have notes before that happens.
I don't. No, I don't, except for to say that they appear to worship the sandstorm itself, which is interesting because it makes me wonder what these religious people were like prior to this sandstorm, or if Burmecia had something of a sandstorm, although it's always raining there. So this would be like a mud storm. They just had this mud storm protecting them all the time. Probably not. But I don't know if they worshiped the sandstorm, yet the sandstorm kind of started at the same time that they left. It feels like maybe their religion was something else 100 years ago. And then they found the sandstone, and then they left. And now it's slowly evolved into, we now just worship the stone, right? It keeps us safe. It protects us. It provides us comfort and keeps the mist away. That is what we now worship. But I would say that can't have been so from the beginning, although it's possible that Burmecia had a sandstorm around it as well.
Oh, yeah. You're saying back when the jewel was
when
in
they
Burmecia,
stole it and left. What because the article there you were citing referenced them as fundamentalists. Fundamentalists for what? That's just kind of like my
for
general
not fighting
question.
wars.
There you go. Yeah, that makes you a fundamentalist, right? I don't know. It's whatever.
Yeah,
but
it's a good point.
they liked the jewel. Maybe they always worshipped the jewel, but what it did maybe change.
Yeah, having stolen the jewel, I would assume that it would be something around not using that jewel for war.
Yeah,
but rather for
hippie
peace or for protection.
Well, it's attached to a musical instrument,
like that,
which is interesting. Where they're like, "Let peace and love reign, man." You know, they're playing their music, and that this is going to change the world. But meanwhile, they've kind of really just isolated themselves, and they're not really doing much there. Based on the story you just read, it sounds like they probably all would have been better together. But the anti-war fundamentalists really just couldn't stay in that culture anymore. And you can see it with Freya and the Dragoon Knights. Like clearly, even when you go to Burmecia, it's like, these are kind of like the Spartans. This is like the whole economy here is war, and peace is not good for them. It's not conducive to their economy. So they had to split. But I just kind of wonder what exactly they were worshiping before that. But by the time they're out here, they're worshiping the sandstorm itself. They come out to pray to it. They have these branches. They have the best view of it. And it's very interesting. I think it's very cool, actually.
Yeah. It's also interesting that, however, it's been quite a while that Clara seems to have totally disassociated with Burmecia. Separated entirely, no relations. We don't talk to you anymore. Yet
100
they're
years. That's
welcoming of the Burmecians who flee.
Yeah, so
the Burmecians who flee from this, who are refugees from this war with Alexandria, the Clarans sort of accept them with open arms. So their shared heritage is still important to them.
Yes, it's like, these are my cousins, and let's bring them in.
So they bring them in, and they don't seem to have any problem with that. It is interesting. There is some dialogue between Burmecian NPCs or Claran NPCs as you're kind of going through the village, where they talk about each other a little bit and like, these damn Clarans, or sometimes even, wow, these Clarans are so nice, or something like that.
Sure.
They have a different demeanor, a different way of carrying themselves than we're used to.
Yeah, just pointing out there are differences. They've spent enough time apart to where there are legitimate differences between them. Yeah. And the Clarans probably think, there probably would have been a lot of Clarans saying, don't let them in because they're going to bring their war with them. And that was true. That was totally true. But they let them in anyways because, yeah, there's an affinity towards each other, and it's not a culture that's that crazy different. And they're like, yeah. These are our cousins. 100 years ago is out of living memory. At least I'm assuming they live humans-ish lifespans.
I would agree with that, probably, yeah.
But it's not so far outside of it that, like, you wouldn't still have cousins or have memories or have been told stories about them and all that.
Yeah, right.
Like, oh, we left them, but we didn't want to. Like, we still love them, but they want to kill people and we don't, so we're gone. But they're still our brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting place. I love the tree, too, just in general.
Yeah.
The fact that it's a tree. It seems kind of opposite from Burmecia in a lot of ways. And not only just the fact that Burmecia is always raining and Clara is dust storm means it's always dry, right? That's pretty different. But the Burmecians have, the handiwork and the masonry and the stones, whereas the Clarans are living in this natural habitat of just like this massive tree, like a Malorn tree from Lothlorien.
Yeah.
And this is where they live. And it's more, well, I'd say grounded, but it's farther from the ground in that sense. But it's more naturally grounded, I suppose, that like we're living off of nature itself. It's just a fascinating culture. I really like it.
Yeah, another thing that I thought was pretty cool was it has sort of a self-sustaining system that is all powered and driven by this sandstorm, which is, of course, powered by the Desert Star. So this sandstorm, the energy that comes from it, is essentially what creates the ability for them to draw and purify water, which runs through their village, even though they're way up out of the, off the ground, like you were saying. So they have it's a cool fantasy location.
Very,
And I think walking through it and exploring it, the backgrounds are really beautiful here. And there's a couple of interesting ATEs to watch with Vivi in particular.
Yeah, once again, everyone separates as soon as we get into the tree.
Yes.
That's fun.
And Vivi is really struggling with people hating him just on sight.
Yeah.
Based obviously on the fact that black mages have attacked the Burmecians. And so
killed
I
their families.
especially liked the one where you have like the father and the family, the Burmecian family.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You bastard, you killed my brother," or something like that. And then the wife comes in, "You bastard." And then the two kids, "You bastard, you bastard."
Yeah,
like they
it's
all
learned
run in
behavior.
yelling it at him.
Yeah.
I loved that little detail.
Yeah, that was interesting.
It's like instilling that hate into the next generation.
Yeah.
And Vivi's like, "I didn't hurt anyone. I didn't do anything." And he's really struggling. And you walk into that inn where that scene takes place and walk over to him, and he's just hanging his head like, "No, I didn't do anything wrong." So they're doing a good job, I feel, up to this point in, at least for me, attaching me to that character. It's a character you just feel sorry for all the time. You just want to like take the little guy and give him a hug and be like, "It's all good, man. It's
all good.
Like, you're struggling, but it's going to be okay." But it's a really hard thing, especially for, like a little kid to be experiencing and going through.
Exactly. And not only a little kid, and it's not only that he's innocent of the charge, but he also has worked to fight off the other black mages.
Yeah, true.
Right? So he isn't just doing nothing and an innocent bystander. He is actively helping to defend these people, and they just don't know it. And you can't blame the Clarans for that either.
Right.
It's like they're just trying to protect their families. There's another thing too that Chocolate Rob actually just mentioned something very interesting. He makes a connection between Fisherman's Horizon. From
and
FF8. Clara, from FF8. And the idea, Rob is mentioning the idea of like worshiping pacifism or taking this isolationism into a point where it's like completely self-sustaining and preserving the 100 years ago past completely forever. And the idea that you can do that for a while, but at some point the outside world finds its way in, and then you're unprepared for it, right?
Well, this is a parallel.
Fisherman's Horizon. Yeah.
This is a parallel with Japan itself.
Oh, sure.
Japan
Like
very much sort of shut itself off from the rest of the world.
They killed all the foreigners. Yeah.
And it's a similar situation. It's like an isolationist mentality.
Yeah.
For whatever like maybe good reason or good intention there is that starts there. in the long term, this is not a good answer if you want your country to thrive. Well, especially in a world, in our world, the world was becoming more and more connected.
Yeah.
And there was essentially came a point where there was no way to avoid the world. I mean, it's just something that they had to accept.
It's so funny. As soon as Japan accepted that and began to participate in the world economy, turns out people freaking love Japan.
Yeah.
People love them and their products and their language and their culture and their food. Like, as soon as, I think they just didn't realize how much people would like really love them.
Yeah.
Or maybe they did, and they were just like, we're going to keep it for ourselves.
They just hated everybody else.
It's possible.
Everybody hated everybody else.
Everybody hated everybody else. And still kind of
in
do,
the whole world.
But it's softened from what it was.
It's not as
as
bad as it used to be.
Yeah.
It used to be really bad.
Yeah.
But it's still bad. Okay. Yeah. So Puck, we learned that he is the son of the king of Burmecia. There's actually another interesting piece of dummied content. I'm not going to like read it or get into it right now. But when Freya separates when you arrive in Clara, she goes to meet with the king. We don't see what happens in that meeting.
Yeah.
But in the dummied piece of content,
we do.
You see the meeting between the king of Burmecia and Freya. And I think it's there that you get at least some subtext that the king of Burmecia might have not necessarily completely banished her, but he apologizes to her.
Okay.
And so when I was bringing that up, I think last week or something like that.
I cut it from the episode.
I'm not sure if that is something that is in what is in the main game in terms of text. Maybe the person who brought that up in the comments I read was talking about this cut scene or something like that.
Yeah, sure. Kind of reminds me of how Zidane had to renounce the Tantalus crew in order to leave the ship and go search for his friends. But then he sees Baku later, and it's like old pals, it's not like that big of a deal. But technically he had to like renounce his place in their group before he could leave. Maybe Freya had something like that, where it was less of like a 100% complete banishment, but something like that had to happen because she was a Dragoon Knight and she had to renounce her duties at least, if she was just going to leave an abandoned post.
Yeah, and trying to go find her boyfriend.
Yeah, her BFF. It's like, okay, also you could defend us because that's what you took an oath to do, but whatever, go find your boy if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, right.
So that would necessitate some type of breaking of an oath of sorts, I suppose.
So there are a couple of scenes with Puck. The first is he basically comes to warn everybody that they're about to be attacked.
Yeah.
But the other scene that I thought was interesting with him is that he knew or found, I guess, discovered Fratley.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
When Alexandria ends up attacking Clara, and after you kind of come to the pinnacle of that scene, Zidane and the group sort of go down the trunk to sort of fight invading forces coming from underneath. But that was all just a ruse,
right?
Where
they
the
can
black
just, like,
mages were just going to teleport into the village itself, and so they kind of drew them out as the defense force, the fighters, away, and then just teleported in there. So you come back, and it's all being attacked, and you help a family by telling them which direction to run to try to escape, and you can get different rewards for making sure they go the right way and that they're all safe. But when you get to the top, up near like their temple or church. This is when Fratley arrives.
Yeah, he kills all the wizards.
Fights off all the black mages and does like superhero landings and looks all cool. But Puck then reveals that he had found Fratley and that he was suffering amnesia. He had no idea who he was, no idea where he came from, no idea of any of that. And Puck had been, I guess, sort of working to help him remember who he was. But this is all devastating, of course, for Freya, who, realizes that her, the love of her life doesn't even remember who she is. About as devastating, probably worse even than realizing he was dead, is like he's alive, but he doesn't know me.
He doesn't know you. And the way she finds out, too, it's just really sad because nobody had explained this to her beforehand. So she just sees Sir Fratley and she slowly starts approaching him and saying, wow, I looked all over for you. It was hard. but I'm glad the journey's over. And she was like, inching closer and closer to him. And then he's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, well, you've been gone for a while and I've been looking for you. And he's just like, what's your name again?
Yeah.
And that's where it finally hits her. Like, wait.
Yeah.
You remember me, don't you? It's your old pal Freya. And he's just like, I'm sorry, I have no memories.
One thing I really liked about it too was he's saying that, and she's like, how can you be saying this? It's almost like, are you pretending not to know me? And then Puck has to run in and be like, listen, this is legit amnesia. He's not just being a butthole right now. He's not just being a jerk.
Which, by the way, does echo a little bit of what Zidane was doing to her when he first finds her. He was calling her by the wrong name, remember?
Yes.
So when and this is a funny connection, but, she meets Zidane and he's just like, Elizabeth? Or, I remember now, you're Julie. And without knowing that Sir Fratley was going to basically do that same thing to her a little bit later. If Zidane was doing that on purpose, knowing this, that would have been cruel, right?
Yeah.
But instead, he was just being Zidane. But of course, the way the scene plays out, all of a sudden, it kind of seems cruel to have ever played a joke on this woman to just pretend you didn't remember her name, right? I'm sure Zidane would never do that again. Because this really, and we don't see Freya for a while.
So we have a comment here from Captain Nimrod, good name. Didn't Puck call Vivi his slave in the first act?
Indeed,
yes,
he
did. Was that foreshadowing Vivi's struggle with identity?
I
didn't
think
of it that way. And I don't know if it was necessarily like purposeful foreshadowing on on the writer's sort of end. But
the Black Mages are all essentially
look
slaves.
at it that way because essentially that gives you a choice. You can say like, yes, I'll be your slave, or no in the scene, but you can't progress the story until you say yes.
Right.
So I feel like there's a couple ways you can interpret this. If you just say, yeah, sure, I'll be your slave, let's go. You could read into Vivi this sort of blank slate and easily manipulated little kid, which is consistent with the behavior of the Black Mages on the cargo ship from Dali when we were leaving there, when you get attacked by the third Black Waltz.
Yeah.
Where he's trying to talk to him and they're like ignoring him and they're basically like robots. So Vivi has developed a personality, and I think we'll get to this point today when we get to the Black Mage Village. I'm pretty sure we'll get that far.
We'll see.
But it's sort of revealed there that like over time there does eventually begin to develop individuality and different traits that make each Black Mage unique from each other.
Right.
But kind of in their initial creation, they come out being essentially total blank slates and just doing exactly what they're told to do.
Right.
So it is interesting in that light. We would know that at this point, Vivi has had interactions with his grandfather, Quan, for some time, and so has developed some form of an identity, but is still probably developing that. And so you're going to be my slave, and him being willing to go along with that might suggest a little bit of what you're talking about there. So I can see where you're coming from with that.
It does certainly struggle, or it does signify a struggle with identity in general, because when somebody asks you to be a slave and you willingly say yes, it means you don't know who you are. Like, it almost guarantees that, like, you don't like have anything better to do you? You don't know anyone else around here, do you? Right? You are, like you mentioned, like a total blank slate, right? And so blank slate is almost like another way of saying that is like no identity.
Yeah.
Right? That's what blank slate means in a way, I guess.
Yeah.
And so if Vivi is, accepting slavery willingly just out of nowhere, then it's definitely signifying a huge struggle with his own identity, which he may not even be aware of. It's just the fact that he doesn't know. So maybe struggle isn't the right word, but a lack of identity maybe is the better way to put it.
Right.
And now, of course, it's turned into more of a struggle. But at the beginning, I don't know, just lack of identity, lack of purpose.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a ignorance is bliss. And Freya touched on that concept with Kina or Quina, or however you pronounce that. In the scene we talked about on the way to Burmecia, where she runs over to the flower, and it's like, oh, the simplicity, I wish I could be more this way.
Is bliss. Yeah.
And it's almost like Vivi is moving from one end of that spectrum to the other through the game. So starting more on the side of the Kina ignorance side and moving this direction into the complexities that come with internal struggles with identity, mortality and death, and who am I, why am I here, where am I going, these sorts of fundamental human questions.
Yeah, so as Vivi's on his journey one way, Freya is wanting
to go
to
back.
make a journey the other way, and they're kind of just like passing each other in this moment. Yeah, that's very interesting. It reminds me, can't remember. I think it was from Men in Black 2, actually. Tommy Lee Jones. Somebody said, well, 'tis better to loved and lost than to never have loved at all. Yeah. And Tommy Lee Jones just says, try it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, it freaking sucks to lose someone you love. Like, I don't cherish the memories knowing that they're gone forever. I don't know. There's two ways to interpret it. But, of course, so for someone like Vivi, maybe that's true. For someone like Freya, like, screw you, shut up, don't tell me that. I would probably rather be dead, actually.
You know, there is really something to that I feel is really important. And having not played through the remainder of the game, I'm not remembering, every line of dialogue or whether this is brought up in any extreme detail. I'm not remembering that at the moment. But there is something really fundamental about the experience of life, no matter who you are, which is dealing with this exact thing. Yeah. It's almost like people will posture those kinds of, what would you call them? What's the word I'm thinking of? It's a platitude.
I think you're just supposed to say... Yeah.
You'll have people who will posture these kinds of platitudes. Oh, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. And you go through your first really difficult breakup or something like that. Yeah. I'm talking about, probably a teenager or something like that, young person. And at least for me, like, that's still, in terms of the intensity of that emotion, was... my emotions have dulled a bit the older I get. And so I have definitely had what would be classified as more devastating losses. Okay. But at being the age I was and with the intensity of emotions, which I think comes more from hormone balance and that sort of thing, that was definitely a more intense feeling. Yeah. And how devastating that was. Yeah, that's rough. It's really, really hard. And in the moment you're feeling that, it definitely does not feel like that could possibly be
I'm
true.
so glad. Yeah. It's like the second somebody dumps you and you just turn around and you just go, well, I'm glad I loved and lost. You got this fake smile on you. Just walk away. No, dude, it takes time. I think it is better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all line is true, but maybe needs to be said when you're like 82 and you're looking back on your whole life and what did I even do? Was any of this worth it? I think that is a time where it's like, I'm glad that I came here. I'm glad that I lived and loved. And now, it's over now. I think that's true. I like the statement in general, but you gotta be really careful when you choose to say that to somebody. And honestly, that's probably something that people just have to realize, and that nobody's going to learn that through just being told that. Right? Yeah. You don't get told it's better to have loved and lost. That's something that decades later you slowly realize, I'm glad I had that experience, even though it sucked and felt awful at the time.
Yeah. And I think that the experience of life, at least for me, almost boils down to your ability. I guess the success, what indicates, or maybe one indicator, I'm throwing this out as one strong indicator of living a successful life, is how well were you able to learn to accept the losses and learn to appreciate what you had, versus allowing those incredibly painful touch points of life to swallow you
Yeah.
and to keep you from continuing to live this very limited life that you have, this short space of time you're here. You know, this is touched on in so many. I mean, I think it's such a universal thing that it's touched on in so many stories. I just played a part in Death Stranding 2 today where a similar kind of sentiment is shared with the main character there. There's this idea that this pain, this emotional pain, can be so deep and so horrific that if you are not able to learn how to frame what that loss means in a way that is constructive and allows you to continue moving, to continue having experiences, to not be so afraid of loss that you just isolate forever and try to avoid it and can never let go, that you essentially prevent yourself from having, it's really hard to call it that or classify it, I'll put it in quotes for that reason, a successful life.
Right.
And so this is, I think, something that this game is really dealing with here. But in what we're going to learn is a very protracted or compacted space.
Condensed,
for Vivi. Vivi is having to learn all of these life lessons that we, if we're lucky, get to have over this
a long
80
period of time,
to 100 year span.
If you're
And,
healthy.
you know, he's getting all of that in a much, much quicker kind of condensed space.
We will talk about how much quicker soon. But yes, it is very different.
But I think that is one thing that the game is really exploring, and I think it's really, really well done.
And I love seeing kind of the counterbalance between Freya and Vivi and just where their journeys are leading them and how each character kind of has it's not a foil completely, but just another character that maybe is experiencing a similar thing, but in the opposite way.
Yeah.
And I think that shows a story with well-written characters.
Yeah.
Where you can say that.
For sure. So,
Vivi also, by the way, this is very important. Vivi says that Puck is the best friend he's ever had. His slave master is the best friend he ever had. The guy who almost got him killed several times and really didn't care about him at all in the end and just ran away and said, "See you, sucker." Right?
Yeah.
That's the best friend Vivi's ever had. That line kind of, I don't know, that tells you a lot about Vivi. He is a good kid. He's got a good heart. He sees only the good in people, even when they blatantly show him how awful they can be. He's just like, yeah, but they are, they're still good in some ways, right? And I think this was back when Puck was being held hostage by that like mud monster thing or whatever. We had to go kind of save him at first, and Vivi's just was first in line to run out and save his best friend Puck. I freaking love it, dude. Oh man, I love it.
The line was actually that Puck was Vivi's first friend, so I misread it by saying best friend. However, referring to him as a friend at all is not accurate, in my opinion, when you look at how Puck was treating Vivi and almost got him killed several times.
So they were able to successfully defend the Desert Star. And they have this ceremony that they perform. It's a dance, kind of a river
really
dance.
Cool. And it's clearly one that goes way back because Freya knows this dance, right? And the Burmesians have been separated for at least 100 years. So this is a many hundreds of years old, I think, tradition, right? This dance that both cultures still learn and practice. And Freya's like, all right, I will participate in it. And it looks very Irish. It's a very like Irish dance kind of thing. Hands at the side.
Well,
and then just kicking
loves
the legs.
his Celtic influence for his music. So
the song was wonderful.
Definitely some of that in there. But as they're playing it, and this dance, this ceremony is sort of required for the powering and continuing of the storm. So it's being played on the harp.
So it's a religious dance.
The dancers dance. But as the ceremony is going on, the harp strings break.
Yeah, and I thought it was funny because at first I thought I read it wrong. Strings? All of them? You're just playing the harp. But as you kind of realize what's happening, this harp, the music of this harp, it's not just a normal harp. Like if you're playing guitar, typically one string breaks at a time. You're really doing something wrong if you broke all of them at once, right? But on the harp, which has even more strings, that's pretty wild. But the signifier here is that the power of this harp is being sustained and amplified through this jewel,
Yes.
and the power of the jewel has been compromised, which means this harp, which may even be 100-year-old harp too, who knows? All of a sudden, it just goes back to being a normal harp instead of a this meaning, or what would you call it, this powerful kind of like spiritual thing that's been around forever. As soon as the stone is gone, it's like, all right, these strings should have broken a long time ago. They're all breaking now because the thing that was keeping that from happening is no longer functioning. And at that same moment, the dust storm completely stops.
Dissipates.
Yeah.
And this is essentially what allows the attack to happen.
Yeah.
And but Beatrix infiltrates, takes the jewel, and runs with it. You chase after her, have another battle that you can't win.
Yeah.
And she kind of calls off the attack when she has the jewel, and you see all of the black mages essentially using their teleport spell.
Yeah, they create a little...
Which creates like a little bubble ball thing, sphere that they jump into and then get teleported up to the airship. Yeah. And so Zidane and the group, they kind of, except Kina, she doesn't go.
Kina's like, I'm afraid of heights. I'll walk home.
Yeah, basically just goes home at that point. Goes home at that point.
You find her later at Q's Marsh chasing frogs once again.
Yeah. So, but
living that blissful life.
And Freya and Zidane all jump into one of those
kind of hitch a ride
and go up there.
Which is lucky.
Yeah.
Because, well, I guess Kina escaped, so whatever. Yeah. But, Bronn shows up, and she's got a weapon of mass destruction.
The Eidolon that they've extracted from Garnet. This was a ritual.
Is this Odin?
This is Odin, yes.
This was Odin, yeah.
So, this is a really intense scene.
Yeah.
Because Bronn summons the Eidolon. It just comes like from the sky, riding the horse, like straight down towards Clara.
Right. Oh,
and just throws like the spear like down through the trunk and just blows it to bits. Just it completely obliterates the whole tree.
Japan is really good when it comes to showing things that are metaphorically similar to an atomic bomb explosion. Yeah. The Japanese are quite good at depicting that in ways that really kind of trouble your heart, right? Where it's just like, whoa, that's crazy. They've done it many times. I remember Star Ocean has a scene. It's mostly a tsunami, but still, just like, holy cow. Like, they're really good at showing, the devastation on that end. And I wonder why the summons aren't anywhere near that powerful when we use them. That's my complaint. They look just as powerful. They're, you're smashing the moon and breaking things, but it really only does, 2,000 damage. And it's like, okay, I was really hoping.
This is, again, the abstraction of the battles. We made a whole video.
It's like, to do the thing that you did before. No, my power's weak for you.
We did a whole video back on our Dark Pixel channel that was essentially a spoof on this entire concept, which is
destroy the moon.
Summons of Final Fantasy look so devastatingly powerful, and then it's just like you beat up a guy and they walk away from it alive. But it's just all part of the abstraction of RPG combat. But
for some reason, when Queen Braun uses it, who has never done this before, it's a nuclear bomb.
There's another thing that I think I said erroneously in the last episode that was put out. I think I had said something like they had kept this knowledge about Garnet's summoning powers from her. They had sort of hidden it from her.
Is that not accurate?
Well, she says later that she was always afraid of her powers as a summoner.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
so it's not that they hid it from her entirely. She obviously knew she had these Eidolons and could summon them, but that she was afraid of that power and didn't want to. So she certainly didn't receive much in the way of training. But what was hidden from her was that she had to turn 16 before this ritual could be performed to extract the Eidolons.
Yeah.
So that was the entire sort of facade that Bronn was putting up. I mean, even in the scene where Garnet confronts Bronn directly, she's acting very motherly, like, "Oh dear, oh sweetheart, you're just so mistaken. That's not what's going on." And as soon as Kuja puts her to sleep, Bronn drops that persona. Like, oh, this meddlesome brat, like, changes entirely.
Right.
So for however long Bronn has been planning this, or has been, concocting these, schemes.
Right.
She has been putting up a front to Garnet, but Garnet has only recently seemed to notice a difference.
Right.
Now, some of this definitely coincides with the arrival of Kuja.
Yeah, 1 year prior.
So who knows how long technically it's been, but I think it's been just since Kuja has began to influence her. So Bronn was waiting for her to turn 16 so that she could perform this ritual and extract the Eidolons to be used in war like this. So now that Bronn essentially has the power to drop a nuke whenever she wants, it really changes the dynamic of any resistance other kingdoms may or may not give at this point, which we find out pretty quickly here.
Very quickly.
Because they learn there on the ship that Bronn is planning on executing the princess now.
Yeah, once she gets the Eidolon, she's going to kill her daughter.
Yeah.
And Beatrix overhears this as well.
This surprises her, So she was already there's a few reasons why she questions the queen at this point. We're starting to see Beatrix, a little bit of her internal thoughts about what she's being commanded to do and how she feels about it.
Yeah.
I took note of at least this, that the first reason that she seems to take umbrage with Bronn is that she's using black mages and summons to wage these wars rather than just relying on her and her knights.
Yes.
That was her first gripe.
Yes, it was.
Why are you pushing us into the background? We're more than sufficient to have accomplished these goals.
Yeah.
Why are you regulating me or, I guess disrespecting me by making me take a back seat to these black mages and summons? I hate this.
Yeah.
And then it's, she's planning on executing the princess. Why? Because that's when she goes, because she makes that complaint first when they arrive on the ship. Mm-hmm. Then she goes up and talks to Bronn and starts to realize, this is a lot crazier than I realized.
Yeah.
She's going to just execute her after getting the Eidolon. She doesn't even care about her own daughter anymore.
Right.
So I found it interesting that primarily her problem with this war was that she was being put on the bench, so to speak, not that they're just killing them for no reason and taking their jewels.
And the weirdest part about it is that she kind of flips sides just a little bit later, right? Yeah. And that was her biggest issue. The Japanese may interest you in this
I am very
case.
interested in this, yes.
In the Japanese script, she is less upset that she took a back seat, and instead, when she says, there's a line that says, "Did we train just for this?" is kind of what she says in the Japanese, but it's referring to, did we train so that she could use these black mages and eidolons and massacre these people in a horrible way, right? The Japanese is way softer on Beatrix. She's way less arrogant. It does reference, our people would have been enough, but she also says, did we really train for this? Meaning, did we just take part in this horrific atrocity? All of this training we have, and this is what happens. I'm horrified.
Yeah.
That's Beatrix in Japanese. In English, she's like, we would have nuked the town just fine with our girl military people. And it's like, no, in the Japanese, she's like, don't nuke the town. Like, that's what she's saying in Japanese. In English, it sounds like she's like, we have nukes too. so it's very different. It gives a very different read, and one that's a lot more sympathetic to what Beatrix becomes very soon here, which is, a treason, a traitor to Queen Bronn.
Right.
So, and it all starts here. So the English really doesn't do her any favors here.
Yeah, I had heard that, and so I think that is, I don't know if I want to call it necessarily a mistake, but just an oversight maybe of not realizing how it reads in English. Maybe the intention was to make it how it's supposed to be.
Well,
but like it's just in writing the lines, it didn't quite come off that way.
She does say, "Did me and my soldiers train just for this?" Right?
Yeah.
And you can interpret that multiple ways, but in the Japanese, it's very explicit. I can't believe she just nuked this town. Like, and that is completely left out of the English, right?
Yeah.
But the line that would have come on the heels of this, let's say if there was a Beatrix translator, you're translating all Beatrix's lines. The lines prior to this were, "Oh, I'm so powerful, no one can stand against me. I'm super sword fighty and no one can hurt me."
Yeah.
And then it's like, then the next line is, did we train all this time just for this? And it almost feels kind of natural in the English to keep that arrogant, maybe facade that Beatrix has when she is killing all the Burmesians, and just be like, well, that's Beatrix, so we're just going to keep her being like that here. Whereas in the Japanese, you're slowly seeing a change, but in the English, it's kind of, and then the change happens all at once.
Yeah.
And I sort of understand that a translator would have taken Beatrix's previous lines of "no one's strong enough to face me," that's all she cares about, right? And then just keep that. Keep that persona in these next lines as well. I get where it came from. It just, in my opinion, was probably the wrong choice.
Yeah. In any case, Beatrix then uses these little pods to teleport back to Alexandria, and Vivi sees that and then gives the idea, like, we got to go rescue the princess. Let's go down there and warp down and see if we can rescue her before they execute.
So if the pods work warping up, then they work warping back.
Yeah.
The English is weird because Beatrix references Steiner after she talks to Queen Braun, and Braun is just like, "No second guessing me, just do it." And Beatrix leaves, and she goes, "Man, this is getting really out of hand. Maybe Steiner was right," is what Beatrix says in the English. Mm-hmm. That came out of nowhere. And last time she saw Steiner, he was like the most loyal person in the whole place.
Blindly loyal.
She hasn't seen him since he left, but the Japanese is different. In the Japanese, she doesn't say maybe Steiner was right. She says, maybe I should have left like Steiner. She may be interpreting Steiner's absence as
that's true,
a deserting, or like he got out of, he saw Queen Braun going crazy and he got out of here.
That makes sense.
Maybe I should do the same.
Again, I feel like that's not necessarily a mistake or a misunderstanding on the translator's part, as much as they think what they wrote is communicating that.
Yes.
And for some people, or maybe even for the majority of people, it's not.
Right.
It's maybe a little too subtle without a performance of a voice actor to word it or say it with certain emphasis that would change how you interpret that line if it's just a written line of text.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's exactly what I think is happening. When she says, I think Steiner, or maybe Steiner was right. Maybe Steiner was right for abandoning Alexandria.
Yes.
Is what she's thinking.
Exactly.
Not that they had some conversation in the past in which he expressed
because he never would
doubt about that. Yeah, that didn't happen.
No, that certainly didn't happen.
Yeah, and that makes sense because as soon as Steiner came back with the princess to Alexandria, he's captured alongside her.
Yeah.
So there is at least some idea there among the Alexandrians that he betrayed the queen.
Exactly.
He left and deserted when really he was just trying to bring her back the whole time. So I think that's true. I think that's the way you're meant to read that line.
And also, Chocolate Rob brought up a really good point. He says that the reason why Odin is so much more powerful for Queen Braun than for the other summoners that are, in our group, on our team within the game, is apparently, and Chocolate Rob points out that it's because of the army of black mages lending power to Braun in order to make the summon happen.
Oh,
so
okay.
There may be an explanation for this.
Is there some mechanic? I mean, that would be very interesting if they had built that in the battle system. I don't think they did, but like Vivi giving, say, elemental magic to Steiner when he does his attacks. If his presence somehow like empowered the summons too, that would be really interesting. And that's not how the game mechanics work.
So.
But
it's an interesting.
I hadn't considered whether or not the black mages and the manufacturing of black mages contributed to the amplification of the power of the Eidolons. It's an interesting thought. he goes on to say, Rob, I should say, is going on here to say, alternatively, the Japanese line is questioning why they trained for this only to be supplanted by other forces. Was our training a waste of time as opposed to, is this what our training is making us do?
Yeah, we trained for this.
Yeah.
Genocide.
He wrote up here, as you were explaining that, but I wanted to slaughter them myself.
See,
that's not
makes it seem
what
that
she's
way.
saying, but that's what the English feels like she's saying.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to bring that up as that was what I mentally took a note of as her first gripe.
Right.
But I wanted to kill everyone. But that's not what she's doing.
Petulant child.
She's just expressing frustration that this is what apparently it seems we were trained to do.
Right. You were trained for war so that this could happen.
And that's what she's taking, that's what she has a problem with. So I'm glad that we went over that. The Japanese, it's clearer there. Oh. So Rob is bringing up a cutscene that comes a little later. We haven't gotten to this part yet. That basically gives more evidence to what he's saying here. So we'll readdress this when that cutscene comes up at the end of disc 2.
Yeah, that's not for
what we're playing up to for next week. So, okay.
Dope.
Now, we return to Alexandria, and I love this little section mission, whatever you want to call it. It's a timed mission. You have 30 minutes to get down and try to rescue her before Braun's ship is going to arrive back in Alexandria again.
Because we were able to teleport there before the ship got there.
Yes. So, you are fighting or avoiding enemies as you're making your way down. This was something I took a note on. And it's not even really that relevant, but I just, something I thought about. In this section, there are no random encounters. It's just the Alexandrian soldiers running around, and you can try to run around them and avoid fights to try to get down there sooner.
Very interesting.
So I kind of thought that was cool. And it made me, I guess I just had remakes on the mind at the moment because there's this rumored Final Fantasy IX remake.
Yeah.
And whether or not, if they were to do, let's say, a turn-based battle system and try to keep it more faithful, whether they would do random encounters or whether they would do...
You could see them.
You could see the encounters and avoid them.
Kind of like Tales of...
This is more what the modern JRPG does. It's kind of rare that you see random encounters.
Yeah, completely random.
Anymore. It's been replaced in favor of seeing enemies on the map and trying to either run towards them and engage them or run around them, which I prefer. But it was just making me think, like, they definitely had the ability to have done this in this game because of this section right here. I mean, obviously they could have done that, but they chose not to. Random encounters was a purposeful choice made by the developers, not necessarily some sort of limitation or something like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, total side tangent. But there's still random encounters in Octopath Traveler. I'm talking more about like 3D, sort of like
Expedition 33.
Like 3D traversal, less so than the. I guess it's technically 3D, but I think you know what I mean when I say that. I'm not going to keep going on the side tangent. Anyways, you get down there, you rescue her. I love Steiner's just wailing, thinking she's dead, and just like, I'm not worthy to live.
And this is like the fourth time that he's had to deal with this, where he thinks Garnet is just gone and he can't believe it, right? The one time he thought he left on the airship, or it's funny, or he thought she got poisoned, and he just he cannot live with himself each time it happens. It's so funny.
Yeah. Another thing I really liked here is that Steiner and Zidane start to kind of come to an understanding, because Zidane is obviously distraught, he picks her up and lifts her and carries her out, and is obviously super worried about her.
Yeah.
And they get up to that room where kind of the sofa was there. This is where Garnet had confronted her mother, and Kuja put her to sleep.
Yeah.
Well, there's like a trapdoor behind the fireplace that leads down into a dungeon. So he sets her down. She needs to rest for a minute. And Steiner and Zidane have a little bit of a back and forth here, where Steiner goes, go ahead and blame it on me and my incompetence and all this stuff. He's like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
And there's just this moment of understanding between the two. Okay, he's not this criminal who's looking to take advantage of the princess like I thought. And Steiner as annoying as I think he is, like, obviously the only thing he cares about is protecting her. We're both feeling horrible and guilty for not having done that. The one thing we all wanted to do. And this is a moment where Steiner essentially entrusts the princess to Zidane to protect.
Yeah, this was fascinating. In the Japanese, Steiner calls Zidane dono, basically. The same thing that he uses for Vivi.
Honorific.
A different, instead of just san or whatever he said before, or just not having one because he doesn't like him. He would instead, he called him Zidane dono, which means it's basically when he says Master Vivi, when Steiner refers to Master Vivi, they put the word master in front of there to signify that Steiner is being deferential and respectful. He gives Zidane that deferential and respectful what's the word? That's like a suffix or however you put it.
Honorific.
Title, basically. And that's the first time he has ever and would ever do this for Zidane, right? Yeah. It's like, holy cow, that's a big deal. But that doesn't carry over into the English as well, even though you can tell that's a hard thing to translate. So I don't blame them for not doing that. But then also Zidane likewise reciprocates. Zidane says something like, it would be better if we were all a little bit more like you, Steiner, basically, that way as well. Because Steiner's like, oh, I'm awful, and, let's do this. Okay, you can take the princess and go. I trust you now. And Zidane is just like, no, like, I'm only doing, like, you inspire me to be more like you, actually, in this moment, and that kind of stuff. It's reciprocal in the Japanese. It's very nice. But even in the English, it comes across very well. Yeah. You can tell that they're finally getting over their petty squabbles. And, like, this is something serious and important. Let's just freaking work together. We want the same thing anyways. Let's just work together for it.
Yeah, because Steiner here is struggling with just his honor as a knight. He has allowed all of these terrible things to happen in his mind. He has allowed this all to go down. And I can see now that you're not the person I accuse you of being. I can see now your affection for the princess, true, genuine love for her. And I will trust you with her because I couldn't protect her. And I have my comrades back here. So Beatrix enters the scene at this moment, sees that the princess was hurt, and realizes, okay, Bronn has totally lost it. I can't continue doing this anymore. Yeah. And when Bronn shows up and Zorn and Thorn are there, this is where Beatrix takes her stand and says, take the princess and get out. Yeah. So our group, minus, this was an interesting moment too, Freya. Freya stays to fight with Beatrix despite hating her for having just attacked her hometown, essentially.
Right.
But is, I guess, calm, open-minded enough to see, like, I can't forgive you for what you did.
Yeah.
But you can still protect the princess, and I will at least join forces with you to fight Bronn, who seems to be like the actual source behind this aggressive move.
Yeah.
So really nice sort of selfless moment there for Freya to fight alongside Beatrix against the real culprit behind this. But while the two of them are fighting, this is where our group goes down. And then as they're descending the stairs, Steiner turns around.
Yeah, and he says, I can't go back.
I can't keep going with you. Yeah. My honor dictates I have to go back and help.
Right.
So he turns around and goes
As
back.
soon as he leaves, then a massive, like, dog basically jumps over him, I guess, and just like, boom. And
I think the name of the monster is a Bandersnatch.
Bandersnatch, which is a reference to Alice in Wonderland.
Yes, exactly.
Lewis Carroll. Also, by the way, Steiner is a knight of Pluto. Pluto is the Latin form of the Greek god Hades. Yes. He is a knight of Hades. And if that didn't make sense at the beginning of the game, it should make more sense now. Like he is a knight of hell, and he is renouncing that basically. Like I'm done serving Hades, Pluto, and I'm going to do my own thing. Also, there's the idea of like a plutocracy is like an aristocracy. It's like the plutocrats are the high noble people, Right. And like I mentioned before, the word Addlestone means a jewel. well, as the word stone is Stein. So his name is
Yeah.
Adel Stein, basically.
Yes.
So he is a jewel, but maybe more of like a diamond in the rough, something that needs to
Sure.
be worked on a little bit in order to to show that it shines
actually
with value.
perfect, yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty good. I like it a lot. But yeah, he leaves, and then we got to fight these freaking Bandersnatches, of which I thought there were one. There are several.
Yeah,
there's a lot of them.
There's a lot.
And you kind of see that Beatrix and Freya are retreating. By the way, Beatrix in the English says, "Forgive me, Freya," in the Japanese. And by the way, it's the fourth time I'm shouting out Vagrant Chocobo. Watch the whole series. It's wonderful stuff. But Vagrant Chocobo points out that in this moment, Beatrix actually doesn't say "forgive me." What she says is, what I did